It's like the difference between saying I don't like Bruce Springsteen and Bruce Springsteen is absolute garbage. Like, I don't like Bruce Springsteen, but I don't think he's absolute garbage.
I'm not saying that the Beatles are garbage. I'm just saying that all their songs have like very, very similar and very systematic chord progressions, and they all sound very similar. And a lot of their lyrics get like recycled in other songs. And I would argue that bands like the Beach Boys, the Rolling Stones, Jay and the Americans. I mean, Buddy Holly really was, I think, he was before the Beatles, and I mean that was kind of a boy band in a sense, but not, it was like boy band adjacent.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think that the Beatles are totally overhyped because they were just popular.
I'm just saying they're not like 100% my thing, but if you think that all their songs are simplistic, I highly recommend you listen to some of the stuff after they did LSD and visited with the Dalai Lama, because that shit is out there, man. And it's like there's like different time signatures, and they're like changing time signatures. It's definitely when you started saying all of their songs are simple, I was like, no.
You're right. That was
they definitely evolved over time, and like the songs that I like by the Beatles are the songs that are later, right? And that's because
like Sgt. Pepper.
When you no, not Sgt. Pepper. Well, that's okay, but like really like getting into like I don't know, Across the Universe is an amazing song. Like it's like one of the best songs ever. Like I just said they're not really my thing. Across the Universe, amazing. And not only that, those aren't very simple lyrics. Like those are very interesting and meaningful, deep lyrics, And even like I Am the Walrus is like a fucking weird song. It's out there, and Strawberry Fields, and Something in the Way, and something. I think it's just called Something. But like
I would say
that song, like just the way that it's structured and written, like hearing it even by them, I'm like, okay, I've heard other versions of this song that I like more, but I'm not crazy about this one,
I would say that their early stuff. I mean, I just feel like
you just wanted to come in guns a-blazing on the Beatles, man. You just got done reading Catcher in the Rye, and you're like, we gotta get the rest of them. Somebody got John Lennon. Where's Paul?
I definitely think that like when Beatlemania was in full swing, I think it was.
He was like, I'm gonna murder the rest of them.
Catcher in the Rye is the reason that John Lennon is dead. For those of you that don't understand the reference, Catcher in the Rye is the book that the guy that killed John Lennon read before he killed John Lennon.
And now everybody knows that that's what it is. So go read Catcher in the Rye. Maybe you'll want to go kill a Beatle. Who knows?
I just think that
since we're doing this episode, why don't we form our own boy band? I already know what it's going to be called. It's going to be called Boys in Pants. It's going to be great. It's going to be a K-pop band. We're going to be a K-pop band now.
I'm already in a boy band.
We're in a K-pop band now. It's a K-pop duo.
No.
We're a K-pop duo.
I'm already in a boy band.
We're in a K-pop duo now, though.
Do you remember?
It's called Boys in Pants. Our first song's going to be called Peachy Keen. I'm riffing on this. Wow, why are you not on board with K-pop band?
Because I'm already in a boy band.
Then you can just dance in the background of mine, and it'll be a duo. I'll do all the singing. I cannot betray.
We have a hit song and everything.
What is your boy band?
It's 5 boys make a band.
Go on.
Yeah, it was founded in 2014, probably.
Uh-huh.
We have one song.
Great.
We're on hiatus. We've been on hiatus for a while.
Okay.
2 of the members we don't talk to anymore because they're shitty people.
Uh-huh.
One of them retired to have a kid, and now it's just Joey and I.
Joey who?
You remember Joey? He used to play Destiny with us.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, and Joey's in the boy band.
Yeah. Yeah, and
so
I'll give you a little taste of our hit song. With 2 people, with 1 person. But we used to have 5. But here's you want a little taste of our hit single? You're going to get it anyways. Okay, you ready? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 boys make a band. 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 boys make a band. But it works better when the other 4 vocals are singing the other parts of the song.
I've already queued up the theme music. This is just playing right now. You know what? No, cue up the K-pop theme music. Let's hit it. K-pop music here.
I figured that's why I was quiet.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna be amazing. Just kidding. The K-pop music starting now.
What is happening right now? Are we starting or not?
Here's what's happening. My new goal with this podcast is to slowly drive you insane.
It's working.
All right, let's roll the real theme music. Ba ba ba.
Wait, real theme music? This is the 4th time.
Okay. You ready to clap?
No.
All right, I'll wait.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. On time. You snapped. You didn't clap. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I'm defiant.
3, 2, 1. No.
I'm being defiant.
You can't. You ruined it. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Thank you. On time. Every time. Welcome back.
I'm going to put multiple clips in. Multiple clips to mess you up.
No. Don't do it. Welcome back to another episode of the Unpop Podcast. I'm your captain. I believe the chef forgot. Who's the captain of this goddamn vessel here? I'm at the helm's wheel. This is my episode.
There's a grease fire in the kitchen.
This is not an Odie episode. I'm the captain, Kevin Miner. He, him. With me as always is...
Odie Matthews, the chef, putting out the grease fire that is Kevin's wrist.
Putting out your own grease fire.
No.
You're greasy and you're on fire.
I'm using water to put out the grease fire. Don't worry, we're fine.
Oh, great times. I love this. So, what are we talking about this week, Cody?
Fast and Furious.
No.
All right, so we open with number 1.
I don't know why I keep doing that voice. It's just we're not doing Fast and Furious ever again. We covered it enough. It's
we'll have
done.
to do at least one more episode.
You get to cover
Fast
the next
Part
movie
2.
and then never again. That's it.
Oh, God. Can't wait.
Anyway, this week we're talking all things...
K-pop.
No. We're in a K-pop band, but we're going to talk all things...
If you keep setting me up, I'm going to be defiant all podcast.
Why are you going to be defiant? Go.
Because I feel
Defiant
like I'm in a rebel
is part
mood.
of a young adult novel series. That's Divergent.
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 Hunger Games.
Whatever. We're talking about
anime.
Yes, anime.
Anime.
Specifically because there's a lot of celebrities who are now into anime. Like basically all the people who grew up that were able to have more access to anime. They're grown up now. A lot of them still consume anime. A lot of them actually herald it as being great. There's what's his name? His last name's Williams. One of the guys in the NBA was like 80. I don't know where he got the numbers
Kobe
from.
Bryant.
But he was like, huh?
Kobe Bryant?
No, not Kobe Bryant. He was like 80% of the NBA watches anime. I don't know where that number came from. But then every sports outlet was like 80%. Yeah, well, that's what happens with sports culture. It's like you could throw out a figure. You know, you could be like 80% of all pitches are foul balls, and like, everyone's like 80%, and like they just throw it out there. They're like, is it really? Like, let's talk about it for the next 72 hours on ESPN because we ran out of shit to talk about in 1996 because 24-hour sports coverage doesn't actually make sense unless you just start throwing opinions and bad facts out there. Anyway, this episode's about anime.
Yeah, and in honor of you went to go see Demon Slayer over the weekend, right?
I saw it literally last night. I saw it less than 12 hours ago.
Now, this is a deep cut for listeners, but probably...
The deepest cut. The first cut is the deepest.
Like, over 20 episodes ago, towards
cut.
the beginning of this podcast, you made a comment that you've seen all of my Bad Omens t-shirts, Bad Omens being my favorite band. And for this occasion, I broke out the one Bad Omens shirt that you have not seen.
Hooray.
Because It's anime.
It's Nezuko. Is it Nezuko?
It's Nezuko.
Yeah, it's Nezuko.
Yeah.
She's cute.
Yeah.
She talks
It's a cool
now
shirt.
in the anime. Anyway, all right. Before we get into I love that you're wearing a Nezuko shirt. I saw Demon Slayer last night. Me and a bunch of grown men cried in the theater. It was amazing. It's basically tradition at this point. Me and a bunch of grown men go and watch this movie. Tanjiro is such a sweet boy and so heartfelt and touching that we always end up crying. And we laughed our asses off too because Zenitsu and Inosuke, all like the great. This probably sounds like gibberish to anybody who's never heard of anime. They're probably not even listening anymore. So if you're still here, this is for you. This one's for you. You little otaku, you little weeaboo, whatever you are.
Taco Bell booty.
You little Taco Bell booty otaku. All right, so I have prepared, in order to flex my nerd muscles, a brief history of anime. Would you like to speed run all of the anime history?
Yes,
Great.
But I have one question for you first.
What?
Okay. Just because I want to say this now before we get into the episode because it's not really anime, but you watched like 4 episodes of the new live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender, right?
I'm on episode 4 because I turned on episodes 1 and 2 while I was like finishing up some work, but I was watching them.
Okay.
And they were very good. So I watched episode 3 and it was really good. And so then I was like, okay. Now, like the first 2 were good. The third one was really good.
And you don't have a close connection with the original cartoon series, correct?
Not really. I mean, I watched the first season of it much later and at a friend's request. And so first off, Avatar: The Last Airbender is not anime. I don't care who classifies it as anime. It's not officially anime. If you want to call it anime, I'm not going to like debate anybody on it. Like if that's your favorite anime, I don't care. Call it. That's fine.
But it's technically not.
Technically not. It's one of the many things. Like I would actually venture to say even Pokemon, the animated series, is not anime. It's done in an anime style, but it was produced by an American company, right?
Oh, that's true.
So Avatar kind of falls under that same category for me of like Nickelodeon put it out. And when it first came out, I was just the right age and I had watched enough anime that I was like, this is like a knockoff anime. I don't want to watch this. And so I just kind of like at that age just kind of like rejected it, which is fine. Like that was just how I felt at the time. Now that I've watched the live action, I was texting you. I was like, oh, the primary struggle in this is about China and Tibet. Interesting. Like I was like, oh, I get this at a much deeper level now.
So the reason I ask you this, because we talked about this last episode, so I just wanted to like kind of put a nice little bow on the Avatar: The Last Airbender series conversation. My barista, who I see pretty much every day when I go get coffee, also was a big fan of the cartoon. And I just want to say this kind of like solidifies what my theory was, which is if you are a big fan of the cartoon and the cartoon has a special place in your heart and you really love the story and the storytelling and the characters and the character arcs and the character development, and like that show is awesome and wonderful to you like it is to me, you're not going to like the live action because they have changed things, which as we discussed is fine. And if you've never seen the cartoon and you maybe saw the terrible M. Night Shyamalan, oh my God, what's his name? M. Night Shyamalan? That's it, right?
M. Night Shampoo. That's what we'll call him
that
now.
One.
New M. Night 2-in-1 shampoo.
It's 6-in-1. Wash everything.
Wash everything. What? Does your hair constantly find itself in a twist? M. Night Shampoo. All right.
And maybe you watch that movie and you're like, this is the weirdest shit in the world. You're probably going to like this series because the changes that they make, if you don't know the original things that happened in the cartoon, it doesn't really change the story in the live action, to my understanding.
No, it's actually, I just got to because like, I'm remembering the cartoon as I'm watching it, and I just got to the episode where Azula starts hatching her plan to go out and like be better than her brother, right?
Oh yeah. So actually, that's funny because that's the one thing that I wanted to say of why like solidified for me that like I'm really glad this exists and people are enjoying it because that's awesome. But it'll be a while before I personally watch it because there is a scene, and you might have gotten to the episode. It's a flashback when Zuko is fighting his father. And he gets the scar.
No, I'm not there yet.
So
that didn't happen in the show yet, but I have seen that in the original.
So in the cartoon, Azula is smiling because in the cartoon and the comics that run after the cartoon, which I highly encourage people to read, she always kind of was jealous of Zuko for being loved by their mother and also saw him more as competition for their father's like love and appreciation.
Yes.
Not really love, but more of like the father's like, authoritarian kind of like rule, like being his right-hand man kind of thing.
Yes.
So in the cartoon, she's smiling because she's happy that he's losing because she doesn't want him to, be appreciated by his father. But in the live action, she looks very like, oh no, my brother. And that right there was enough for me to be like, nah. I
love
like
that you're like your biggest complaints about this are nitpicking things.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just these little tiny details
Yeah.
that like don't change the overall story arc.
And that's what I just said. They
All
really
right.
don't.
Yeah. It's
but
just,
for me,
she's not smiling.
yeah, she should be smiling.
All right, well
she
that's
needs to
fine.
smile more.
Well, I'm gonna
Anyways,
watch it
yes.
for you. Okay, so
brief history
Avatar
of anime.
actually pretty good. We could talk about it some other time. If you ever end up watching it, feel free to bring it on.
If it gets
I'm
a
sure
season
I'll
2?
watch it. I'm sure it's going to. It's actually doing very well.
So if it does, then I will watch it
all right, cool.
and give my opinion.
Season 1's really good. I've really liked a lot of the moments in it, and I liked how it translated. Once again, Netflix and the people working on these shows for Netflix, One Piece, Avatar now, they've done a very good job translating anime into live action because they don't lean too heavily into anime, but they definitely lean into the anime side of it. So whereas I think the biggest failing point of a lot of anime adaptations is they try to ride the line between realistic and anime and fail horribly, right? Because that's a hard line to ride. These shows are leaning more into like the silly anime, even the dialogue, and it makes it more original. It makes it feel more authentic. All right, cool. Let's get into anime history.
Let's do it.
Odie, what do you know about the history of anime?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong.
I will.
Didn't it start? It started in Japan, right?
Keep going.
I want to say it started in the 70s.
Wrong. All right.
All right. Well, made
You're
it
wrong
two
already.
sentences in.
The 70s anime was already like being distributed in the United States and everything.
So 60s?
No way. We're going back, baby. All right.
The 20s?
No. Close.
Oh my god.
You're getting close. All right. So, so let's go back to the first animated film ever shown in Japan. Can you guess what it was? No, you probably can't.
I was going to say, I couldn't even get the year right.
So it was 1912.
Oh my god, what?
The Titanic had sunk.
It was a cartoon about the Titanic?
No.
Japan was like, American tragedy, anime.
Yes, it was about the Titanic. They produced... No, they didn't have the manpower to produce an animated film about the Titanic that fast back then. You kidding me?
They could have.
You kidding me? People still had water wheels outside of their house in 1912, bro. Grids of electricity had yet to be properly established in many cities. Horse and buggy was still the primary mode of transportation. What are you talking... Anyway, all right, so... All right, so the first recorded film ever shown in Japan. There's a couple disputes about this, but I'm not even going to get into them. It doesn't even matter. The first one that's really recorded as being shown is a French film called Les Exploits des Fous Follets by Émile Cole, right? So this is 1912. I've actually watched this. You can look it up on YouTube. It's like a really weird like stick figure animation, and it's a white animated figure on a black screen. There's all this weird stuff happening, and I'm watching. I'm like, this is the weirdest fucking thing. And there's weird music playing, and like, I'm like, I can only imagine going to a theater and seeing this in like 1912 and just having your mind blown, like just like I can't believe they did all the. He went into the box and then it turned into a balloon and it went to the moon. Also, there's a theme in early 1900s stuff about the moon. One, being a face, like actually having a face and being a man. Two, being a dick. Like the moon is a dick. In a lot of these films, the moon is just a dick. The moon pops the balloon and then drops the guy back down to Earth. I'm like, what the fuck is going? Anyway, so this is the first film like that's recorded. It loosely translates to The Exploits of the Wisp. Although if you separate it, it's kind of like The Exploits of the Wildfire. But Exploits of the Wisp kind of makes more sense. I don't know. So that influences these three guys who are considered like the grandfathers of anime. Not the godfathers, not like they made a thing and then other people made anime after that. But these were guys who were taking a Japanese animation style that was very popular on what were known as magic lanterns. Magic lanterns, you might be familiar, like when you have, it's almost like a stop motion animation that kind of slides around inside of a lantern and it gets lit up and you can see like the figure moving, you know? Have you ever seen those?
Mm-hmm.
You spin it around on the inside and the light lights up the figure. Okay, cool. So these guys, their names are Oten Shinokawa, Junichi Koichi, and Setaro Kitayama. These dudes are considered the grandfathers of anime. They start working on projects, and this kind of like, I'm going to drop it there because like they're doing some stuff that starts to make it popular enough that after being influenced by Disney animators in leading up to the 1940s, the first feature-length anime, like animated feature, and if you watch this, you'll kind of recognize it as being anime adjacent. Like the animation style is very similar to what we would recognize today as being anime. It's called Momotaro Umi no Shinpei. Now, do you know what that means, Odie?
Of course not.
Great. It means sacred sailors, and it was a propaganda film. It's absolutely phenomenal, which if you can imagine in 1945 might not have been ally friendly.
I can't imagine.
So there's a propaganda film from 1945 called Momotaro Umi no Shinpei. I've like gone through a good portion of this. Also weird as hell. There's a bunch of Japanese kids singing in the background. They're singing songs about like seeing skylarks and not being able to see them. And then these guys who are sailors come back to their village. There's all this crazy shit going on in black and white. And it's very, very like Disney/anime influence. You can actually see where a young child at the time who eventually gets hired by Toei Animation, Hayao Miyazaki, is influenced by this. It's a ton of like anthropomorphic animals. And they're like, one of them is like educating the kids on like, he's like, I learned how to fly a plane and you could too. And also then I was ready for combat training and I got to duck behind a barrel with a gun and go, like, and you're like, oh God, this is hardcore propaganda. Just kind of getting kids pumped to be in the military. You know, you got to have a strong military. Yeah. So that was the first animated feature shown in Japan. Now we're going to jump ahead to the 1950s, the late 50s. There are two films that come out. One is called Magic Boy, and the other one is called Panda and the Magic Serpent. Kind of a theme there, but we don't have to do too much with that. Then there is 1963. A film comes out that is called, I think it's called Tetsuan Atomu, which translates to The Mighty Atom. Do you have any guess what that would be called in America? It's a very popular anime. People love it. He's a boy and a superhero. Can you guess?
Shazam?
No, Astro Boy. You know Astro Boy, right?
Yeah,
okay.
But I'm pretty sure Shazam was created before Astro. It doesn't matter.
It's not in the anime history. I've done this. I've done the research.
Okay.
So
Astro Boy is okay.
It's called Mighty Atom in Japan. Now, we before this was created, happened to drop 2 atom bombs on Japan. So when it came over to America, it got conveniently renamed to Astro Boy. Instead of reminding us constantly that we had dropped 2 bombs that were atom bombs on Japan. And
it checks out.
But also would give you an idea as to why the show had a superhero called the Mighty Atom. Like, anyway.
Maybe just a little bit. Was it spelled ATOM?
Yes! A little bit of dark history there. So then in 1963, same year, 2 films come out. One is called Doggy March, and the other one is called Gulliver's Travels Beyond the Moon. Now,
Gulliver's Travels.
These, yes. So Western tale brought over into Japan. Yeah. There's a lot. You'll notice a lot of stuff that kind of goes back and forth after that point. But those notably are 2 of the first Toei films worked on by Hayao Miyazaki, and you can actually tell if you look at like the if you look at the posters for them, like the advertisements, like you can see his signature animation style on it, like the big eyes, the anthropomorphic animals. Yeah. Big time. So 1963, those come out. So does Astro Boy. Astro Boy ends up becoming hugely popular in the U.S. like later. So then we have to jump ahead to the 1970s. Now, at this point, anime is kind of like, it's not anime yet. It's still recognized as Japanese animation, right? So it's its own thing, but it's not anime as we know it. Anime doesn't really become a term until like the 1980s, and even then it kind of gets bounced back and forth between anime and Japanimation. And then somewhere in the 90s, I'll get to it, but somewhere in the 90s it kind of solidifies and people start calling it anime. So anime as a popular cultural term in the West really is only about 30 years old. But all of these things are anime. So we jump ahead into the 1970s. 1971, Lupin the Third gets its first animated episodes. So Lupin the Third, one of the longest running animes of all time. It goes on more hiatus than One Piece. So Lupin the Third, technically the longest. Actually, Astro Boy, I guess, would be the longest running anime. But Lupin the Third, one of the longest running animes of all time. Then 1974, Mazinger Z comes out. Now, this is a huge moment in anime because it's one of the first ones where the bad guy is overtly German. So they're kind of moving away from that. Yeah. So before we had the blessed sailors, right, that were teaching kids how to join the military so they could go fight for a good cause. And we've moved now about 30 years displaced from that. We have German bad guys. The perspective is kind of shifted in popular culture. And I think that's a big moment. It's also one of the first big like mecha revolving animes. This is actually before Gundam comes out. Gundam doesn't come out till 1979, and it was heavily influenced by Mazinger Z. So Mobile Suit Gundam comes out in 1979. At this point, anime has only really ventured into slightly fantastical realms, a little bit of sci-fi. There is a style that's recognized in anime, still prevalent and popular today, called moe. Moe anime tends to focus on like just deep emotions, typically the development of a romantic relationship. You're probably like Fruits Basket, things like that, right? And a lot of people who are big fans of anime would recognize that. There's a lot of them. Orange was a really big one in like 2016, I want to say. But 1982, Macross comes out. So we've got some more robots, some jets, some action. So anime is now like, it's in the action, it's in the political thriller realm, it's in the sci-fi realm. Robotech debuts in 1985. And Robotech was actually highly influenced by 1979's concurrent release with Mobile Suit Gundam, which was called Space Battleship Yamamoto.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. That was like, so Mobile Suit Gundam wasn't like it influenced things, but so Space Battleship Yamamoto was considered a space opera. So when Robotech comes out, it kind of takes both of those elements. It's like, hey, we want this space opera. We also want this action. Like, we want to really sell the audience on this. And at this point, a thing has developed in Japan that's called otaku subculture. Now, otaku, I think a lot of people, from the way that it gets used popularly in modern culture, would recognize it as like someone who's kind of like a nerd. They're shut in. They only love anime. They don't like other things. That is not what it is. Otaku is just someone who has an interest in anime. It's like if you're like, oh, that guy's, he's punk rock because he likes punk music, but like also
he's
likes
a Potterhead because
Yeah.
he loves Harry Potter.
Yeah, but like, so if you're an otaku, you just like anime. That's it. You don't have to be like watching it all the time, and it doesn't have to be the only thing you watch. And you don't have to be a shut-in. You don't have to be a huge nerd. You don't have to be introverted. And otaku, it can be all of those things, yes, but it can also just be someone who really likes anime. Like, I'm an otaku.
Because you're a big fat nerd.
Big fat nerd. So then what ends up coming out of that moving forward, between 1982 and 1985, there are like these really big moments. So Nausicaa comes out, which is like one of the most influential animes of all time. It semi-influences like the isekai genre that's hugely popular now. But I can't wait to share with you what the actual, like what the first proper isekai in the Western world is.
Oh God.
You're gonna love it. But the formation of Studio Ghibli is in this time as well. So between 1982 and 1985. And then we move into the later 80s. The later 80s is where you start seeing really big moments for anime. So 1988, one of the most famous anime movies of all time comes out. Can you guess what it is?
Akira.
Yes, 100%. It's also, I think it's the last completely hand-drawn anime of its time.
I can believe
Yeah,
that.
I'm pretty sure. But so Akira comes out, and
Akira.
and it comes out in Japan, and it fucking bombs.
Yeah.
Like, fails hard. Like, we're talking Scarface fail, right? Remember Scarface originally came out, and it bombed. Like, everyone hated it.
Crazy.
Critics, like, trashed it. It comes over to America. We eat it up. Like, it becomes hugely popular. And then in 1989... a very popular film, some people's favorite anime film, Kiki's Delivery Service from Studio Ghibli comes out. To great critical acclaim. So we've got one bomb that ends up becoming like a subculture thing, and we have one really popular one from Studio Ghibli in 1989. Let's jump ahead to the 90s. So in the 90s, 1995, Ghost in the Shell comes out, and the Evangelion series starts. So Evangelion continuing the giant robot theme, Ghost in the Shell delving more into what's now known as seinen, which is so there's shonen, which is like younger people, so like your Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, My Hero, yeah, that's known as shonen. Yeah. And then seinen is like older, like more mature, so young adult concepts. Ghost in the Shell is very adult concepts. It's like, hey, what if robots have sentience and we have to regard them as actual beings, big concepts. But Ghost in the Shell comes out to great critical acclaim. So does the Eva series. People love them. And then this is also the year that the Sci-Fi Channel, the American network, at this time not spelled SYFY, it's just spelled. It's called the Sci-Fi Network, I believe, at this time.
It's SCI-FI is what it used to be, I believe.
But they start doing a block called the Japanimation block. So 1995, and this is around the time that I'm first watching anime. So like 1994, 1995 is my first introduction to anime, and it's through shows like Robotech, and then it's through the Japanimation block. So I got to watch things like Vampire Hunter D, Ghost in the Shell, Akira, Tank Police, so many good anime that are like so weird and out there. And like,
I haven't heard Tank Police in so long.
Tank Police was I remember the concept alone was enough to make me watch it, but I remember even as a kid watching it being like, this isn't all just tanks. And some of it's quite boring. Like, because there's a lot of political intrigue in it,
Yeah.
So like I would be like watching, I'm like, man, when are these tanks coming back? These police have tanks. This is the whole point, isn't it? But yeah. So that comes out in 1995 on the Sci-Fi Channel, and anime starts becoming more popular. This is where it finally starts showing up on shelves a little more in the U.S. And then in 1997, anime really cements its place with the most expensive film to date. Can you guess what it is?
In the 90s?
1997. I'll give you a hint. It's a Studio Ghibli film.
Hang on. Let me think for a second. Go back in my... Is it Princess Mononoke?
Hell yeah, it is. Princess Mononoke comes out. It's, once again, great critical acclaim. Miyazaki has a huge following. Studio Ghibli was actually formed in the 80s, so like they've been doing their own thing for about 10 years at this point. Princess Mononoke was a huge moment. And
that is my favorite Studio Ghibli film.
The same year, not as much popularity, but hugely popular and referenced often in popular media today by some of our favorite directors, Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue comes out. Now, if you look up Perfect Blue and like cinema influence, you'll see multiple shots in movies from some of your favorite directors today that are like complete like takes on Perfect Blue shots. Like, it's amazing. Like, I can't stress enough how much this actually influenced cinema, not just anime. Right? Huge.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had a feeling you would probably like that part. Now, I kind of glossed over this, but it's because I wanted to jump back to it and say something that led up toward this point as well, and it leads into the next part. This entire time, there is a popular subculture of anime building, and it centers around one specific girl who is fighting evil by moonlight.
Hello Kitty.
No, it's Sailor Moon, baby. So Sailor Moon comes out, and it's like the magical girl anime, right? And magical girl is its whole subgenre now. Sailor Moon's building popularity through the early 90s. It was for... I was a young boy, and it was for girls, so I was not into it. But very
Although
popular.
Some young boys were.
Huh?
For the wrong reasons, some young boys were into it.
Whatever. But I remember, what was it, Tuxedo Mask? Like her like boyfriend, Tuxedo Mask, he was like my favorite. I was like, any episode he was in, I was like, oh, I like this episode. And then he would be out. Also, like it was a cool show to have on TV at the time. But Sailor Moon doesn't really start gaining popularity until the 2000s. So that's why I kind of like went back. I'm bringing us up to 1997 again. 97 is when the first animated series that really introduces the West to isekai comes out. Can you guess what it is?
Okay. Early 2000s?
Nope, 1997.
And
so 1997, Princess Mononoke comes out.
Yeah.
The Ava, the Perfect Blue starts. The Ava series is just about to wrap up. We've got way more anime in our culture. It's actually like on the shelves at your local like record store, wherever you're getting movies at, right? And then a series comes out that is a competitor for a popular game of the time, and it comes out primarily as a series first. Well, not first, but like, actually, it actually comes out. We talked about this last time.
Pokemon.
No, Digimon. Digimon is the first popularized isekai in American culture.
God damn it.
However, there was one that came out before this. And
Pokemon.
It's we don't think of it as an isekai, but it's a goddamn isekai. And when I read it, because I was looking up the history of isekai, because I'm like, is that the first? It's not. The first isekai is a very popular... It's an American man in a fantasy world, and he has to rescue a princess. Can you guess what the first isekai is?
Oh my god. Yeah, it's fucking Super Mario.
Yes!
That makes total sense.
Super Mario's the first isekai.
The Bob Hoskins movie from the 90s, right?
So...
That's hilarious when you think about it. When you really think about that, that is actually hilarious. Because it is created by Japan.
And you
That's
wouldn't
amazing.
think about it. Like you wouldn't, like your mind doesn't go there first, but that's what it is.
Huh.
He gets sucked into another world. He's just a plumber, and he's got to defeat a dragon turtle thing. Like it's an isekai. Anyway.
Oh my god, it really is.
Yes.
He has a dinosaur as a helper. His brother is there. You've got a little toad man. You've got...
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. Wow, damn.
Isn't that crazy?
That is wild.
When I was looking this up this week, I was like, oh, that's rad. Like,
That's
Super
awesome.
Mario's the first isekai. There are other... So if you go back further, isekai has already been popularized. There was, I forget what it's called, like the something of Dunbine, which did have an animated series, but it didn't reach any form of notoriety. So I would say the first popular Western, like, isekai, apart from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, is Super Mario Brothers. But
That's true.
So Digimon comes out. Pokemon, as we know from our previous episode, comes out after. In the U.S.
But not by much,
No,
though.
not by much. Pokemon's almost, it's about 3/4 of a year off. But Digimon comes out first, and it's isekai. It's actually, I mean, a lot of people who are now have been like otakus who have been fans of anime their entire life. Digimon, you could actually look back, and I would say a lot of them would go, yeah, that's actually one of the first anime I ever got into. It was these cool kids. They got sucked into another world of a video game, and they had to save it. You know, they all had these monsters that evolved into weird people things.
Very weird.
Eventually. But
the
same year that these come out, so does Trigun, and so does a very popular anime, and one of my favorites of all time, Cowboy Bebop. Yeah. So And Toonami also starts in 1997. Now,
Toonami.
Toonami does not have the anime following that we know yet. Toonami, the closest thing that they're showing to anime at this time are 2 shows. One of them, not actually anime because it's produced in the West, Thundercats. And the other one, not actually anime because it's produced in the West, but very similar to a popular style of Japanese medium where there's a team of super fighters in suits that have a giant robot that fight things, Voltron. So Thundercats and Voltron are on the original Toonami block in 1997.
I loved Voltron.
Now,
I loved
right?
Voltron as a kid.
So, and
Oh
that's
my
1997.
God.
Now, Toonami also starts showing Robotech, Macross, Gundam. Like these things start coming
Gundam.
out around the same time, right? I'm about 9, 10 when Gundam, Macross, Robotech start popping up, right?
Wait, you mentioned Gundam real quick.
Yeah.
I want to, because I was already looking this up, but
Yeah, hit
a
it.
director that you and I both like is going to be doing a Gundam live action movie.
Hell yeah.
Well, you might not like him. Oh, that's not my thought. Anyway, doesn't matter. His name is Jordan Vaught Roberts.
Okay.
And people would definitely know him. His most famous movie is Kong Skull Island. But to tie this into you and I a little bit, he has directed and helped with the creation of some Destiny 2 like cutscenes for some of the stories. But his whole thing of why, like, and if you watch Kong Skull Island, he's a huge anime fan. He's a huge 90s. He grew up with a lot of it. So the fact that, kind of like we talked about last week, giving a property like Gundam to somebody who already has proven they can do scale with Kong Skull Island, but also loves the source material.
Yes.
And for me, in preparation for this episode, I was trying to think of like what my favorite anime really would be. And my initial thought was like, oh, well, like JJK or like My Hero. And I'm like, well, those are modern. I was like, what really is my favorite anime? And it is no question that Gundam is what got me into anime and is why I love anime.
Yes.
And so knowing that a live action Gundam movie is coming from a director of Kong Skull Island is the best movie in the Monsterverse. That's a hot take.
No.
I'm super, super fucking excited because in addition to that, the director of Andy Muschietti, who did It Chapter 1, It Chapter 2, ignore the Flash movie because it's bad. He's also doing the Batman movie for DC. He has been working on, for Warner Brothers, a live-action Attack on Titan, working directly with the creator of Attack on Titan, because Eddie Muschietti has come out and been like, yeah, it's like my favorite anime, my favorite manga of all time.
Yes.
So it's kind of cool that we're getting 2, like, westernized directors, because, I mean, neither of them are, I don't think either of them are technically, like, American, but, like, the fact that they're giving properties of, like, you know, because they were the right age in the 90s when what you're talking about came out.
Yes.
It's just so cool that, like, hopefully this won't be like a M. Night Shyamalan Avatar or like a Ghost in the Shell kind of situation. Hopefully this will actually be good. But live action Gundam, I will, can't wait.
Oh,
Anyways,
same.
Sorry.
All right, cool. So all of this kind of starts building up, and eventually the first real action anime from Japanese animation culture is brought into Toonami, right? So Toonami on Cartoon Network, and it had been on TV before, but it had been on a very early time slot in the morning, I think on Fox Kids, and because I remember watching a couple episodes when I was like even younger than when Toonami was out. But they finally Toonami brings on Dragon Ball. And that totally changes anime culture like forever. Huge shift
Dragon
in
Ball.
anime culture at that point. Dragon Ball Z is what I think a lot of people who are popularized, who are celebrities, reference as like one of their introductory animes. Michael B. Jordan, a lot of current like WWE wrestlers, a lot of athletes will reference Dragon Ball Z as like their introduction to anime and how much they loved it. And I was actually, a funny little aside, like, so I do Muay Thai, Judo, Jiu-Jitsu. A lot of the people that, go figure, a lot of the people that do this stuff were really into action anime, especially Dragon Ball Z at the time, right? So like we're all kind of into that. And then Baki, which has a new series, Baki Hanma, was originally called Baki the Grappler, which is grappling is what jiu-jitsu is loosely referred to in a lot of cultures. So Toonami brings on Dragon Ball Z. Toonami really starts, I think it was in their second iteration when they had Tom version 2.0. They're really leaning into anime, and they start airing other shows that become popular in the 2000s. Now, the 2000s, I'm just going to go through this list because it at this point, anime kind of explodes. Like, this is like the tipping point, and Western culture really welcomes it in, and there are some really big developments. But some of the notable ones that come out in the early 2000s Tom era of Toonami on Cartoon Network, and especially when they start showing stuff late night as well. Yu-Gi-Oh!, Yu Yu Hakusho, Inuyasha, Naruto, Full Metal Alchemist, Gurren Lagann, Samurai Champloo, like all of like these big animes that people know and love and reference over and over again and cosplay at conventions. Anime is starting to like really build popularity. Now 2006 through the present is where I think we can lump a lot of modern anime together. And I'm glad that we got up to this point because 2006 is when Crunchyroll comes out. So, first, 1994, Funimation Productions is formed. Now, Funimation eventually becomes its own streaming service because they've been producing anime long enough that they have their own catalog and they can eventually start streaming things. But Crunchyroll comes out in 2006. Crunchyroll... you can start streaming anime. There's really great titles on there, and they have a pretty good catalog. In 2017, and I know there's a ton that happens in between now and then, but like these are the two really big moments that lead up to this year, and I think why it's a really good thing that we're doing this episode now. In 2017, Sony acquires Funimation, and Funimation keeps streaming. The streaming service is still there, but in 2022... Sony also has then acquired Crunchyroll and basically goes off of who has more users at the time. And the biggest streaming service at the time was Crunchyroll. So Sony goes, hey, Funimation, we're going to start bringing your entire catalog over to Crunchyroll. And I remember when this announcement was made in 2022. So like the whole Funimation catalog's coming over to Crunchyroll, but it's because Sony owns both of them. And in 2024, Funimation will stop being a streaming service because everything will have moved over to Crunchyroll.
Okay. We were just talking about Crunchyroll on our great cancellation journey of streaming services. And I did not know that Sony bought Crunchyroll. But now knowing that information, it makes total sense that Crunchyroll... So the biggest complaint that I've seen in the anime sphere is that Crunchyroll is trying to monopolize the market by basically shutting down other streaming services. Yeah. But if it makes sense that A, Sony's behind it because Sony is fucking terrible, as we know. Yeah. But two, knowing that Sony owned both Funimation and Crunchyroll makes total sense as to why Funimation is ceasing to exist.
Yeah. So, well, and but the thing that really sucked about it, and I think something that a lot of people overlook, is there was a time around like 2016, 2017, where in order to watch every anime you wanted to watch, you had to have a subscription to Crunchyroll, then Funimation, then High Dive, which was just a pain in the ass. Like, it's the earliest example I have of like, I'm not going to purchase all these subscriptions just to watch like the shows that I want to watch. I'll just download them. I don't care. Like, no one wants to go through that hassle. So Sony, I get that like some people are really attached to Funimation and like for no reason other than they like Funimation and have just chosen that's the side that they've picked, are like, it sucks that they're being canceled and Crunchyroll's continuing. It's all the same thing. Like, all of them started up with the same idea. They're like, hey, we're going to be the anime streaming service. Yeah. One of them has to win. And it just turns out that a bigger company stepped in and said, okay, we're going to pick by who has the most subscribers, and it's you. Like, that's it. Like, that's all that happened there. But in that time, and especially over the past 10 years, you've started seeing like big celebrities start to endorse anime publicly. Like I said, NBA players. You've got Cassius Marsh, who's also into Magic the Gathering and like the trading card game sphere. He's promoting it. You got Post Malone, of course. Everybody.
I was gonna say Post.
You gotta love Post. But
Bad Omens.
Bad,
They like
yep,
anime.
Bad
That's why
Omens.
they've partnered with
Well, a lot of people's
Demon
favorite
Slayer.
metal bands, just things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it keeps coming up more and more, and it's because the medium, like I said, in the early 2000s, it kind of explodes, and it's because there's enough that can be brought over easily. And if you look at the actual timeline, the only thing that was ever holding anime back from being a proper subculture was distribution. So it was technology and distribution, because we couldn't get it here fast enough, and we couldn't share it quickly enough and with enough promotion. So it was hard to gauge how popular it was going to be until I would say mid 90s to early 2000s, when it really started becoming its own thing. And kids our age, and teenagers into adults too, but kids who were 8, 9, like us, started really having the ability to just consume it at our leisure.
Yeah. And you know what? You mentioned a good point about availability, because I'm thinking, and I'm like, okay, outside of anime specific streaming services like Funimation prior to them being dissolved into Crunchyroll and Crunchyroll, how many animes that aren't mainstream and popular are available on other streaming sites? And I know Attack on Titan is on Netflix, but that's a huge, more modern, popular anime. My Hero is on Hulu. Again, modern, popular. Jujutsu Kaisen, I know, was on HBO Max for a little bit, but
yes. Well, that's because
three...
Max had a deal with. So part of what's been happening with Crunchyroll is Max had a deal with Sony to have they were testing out how the Crunchyroll catalog did on Max. And what's happened through this entire process, because when Sony acquired Crunchyroll, that was around the same time that Crunchyroll also launched Verve, and that makes sense because they had an influx of cash, right? So they're like, all right, we're gonna launch Verve, and Verve had all these other streaming services. So Critical Role was on that. Verve didn't do well because the other big companies would come in and offer some of these other things that were on Verve more money. So it was really a battle of who could get more money where at any time, right? But then
that makes total sense.
Yeah, but then Sony's like, all right, well, let's see how well we do in a deal with Max. And it didn't do that well. It turns out the people who were watching Max were mainly watching for HBO stuff, right? So Max
makes sense.
And then Discovery buys HBO, and it's a whole fucking thing over there. Sony's doing its own thing, and Crunchyroll has this entire time remained one of the primary streaming services for anime.
Yeah, and I mean that is all to say that besides super popular, super mainstream anime, that has exploded,
Naruto,
My Hero, they're if I wanted to watch an anime that I really like called Death Parade, which is just one season.
Oh, I love Death Parade.
Yeah, it's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
One of my favorites. That's going to be only on Crunchyroll because, yes, it's a good anime, but it's not popular enough that it's going to be Netflix is going to be like, well, we'll pay you money to have it on Netflix. You know what I mean? Going on what you're saying is that unless it's a really, really popular modern or even really popular older anime, it's not going to be available anywhere except for Crunchyroll because that's just unfortunately, unfortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, however you want to.
It's a little bit of both. I mean, another thing to note is Hulu actually did a real solid by making a deal with Funimation in the mid 2000s. They had a deal with Funimation, and that's where a lot of people got exposed to Attack on Titan for the first time. Around 2013-ish, right? Because the
first season was
but not just that. Sword Art Online was on Hulu because it's a Funimation show, right? There's a Psycho-Pass, which is a Funimation show that was on Hulu, right? So a lot of these things were on Hulu and not Crunchyroll at that time. My personal experience, one thing that I really want to point out. So in 2016, so I was really into anime as a kid. When I got into college, I didn't get to watch it that much, but there were two shows notably that caught my eye in college around 2007, 2008. Death Note and Code Geass were on, and that drew me back into the anime sphere around that time. So I had those two shows, and then here and there over the next few years, there would be one or two that I really enjoyed, but those two really stuck out. And then 2013 was probably the next time that I got into anime, and it was Attack on Titan. And I was like, I've never seen anything like this. This is amazing. Everybody has to see, I was like, you guys have to watch Attack on Titan. It's crazy. But so 2013, I get back into it, and then Attack on Titan obviously kind of falls off for production reasons for a little while.
4 years,
and then And then in that time, I'm out in California in 2016, and I was in a place where like there was not a lot of media. So one of the things that we would do is we would download podcasts for the week. And my favorite podcast to listen to every single week, like I really looked forward to it, was IGN Anime Club, which was amazing. And I love that IGN ventured into that space and gave some of the people who worked for them, like Raina Scully, Miranda, I can't remember her last name right now, but like a lot of really cool people at IGN got the opportunity to talk about anime on a weekly basis and in a very succinct way. So it was a podcast about anime, and I didn't have anywhere to watch it. So I was listening to these other people talk about it at the time and really looking forward to the next time I got to watch it. So anytime I went home or anytime and then eventually when I got home, I started watching a ton of anime because I had all these people who had like given me information on shows that I would like. And not only that, they had an IGN anime fan club on Facebook. Like this is back when Facebook groups are first starting. And so I hopped into that and I've made some lifelong friends. Like I have some really great friends in the anime space. That's actually where Byron Bennett and I met. Was in the
Really?
IGN Anime Fan Club, yes, in
Yo,
like 2017.
Dude,
I'm
Byron.
not kidding. So Byron, my buddy Mando, my buddy Tim, like a lot of really cool people that I've known over the years, I've known through the IGN Anime Fan Club, which then got way too big because groups started getting big on Facebook and like having like 10,000, 20,000 people, and it was too much for anybody to keep up with. So there was a smaller group that kind of broke off from that and formed what was called the Anime Pub Club, and we had that off to the side, and that was really cool. I'm really grateful for those people because they introduced me to some of my favorite anime over the years. But I wanted to make sure that we covered the history of anime, how it became popular, why it became popular. I do want to mention we referenced that like Perfect Blue gets referenced in movies, specifically the ones that I was thinking of. Darren Aronofsky's Requiem for a Dream references it.
Yep.
Inception, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Really like anything that kind of ventures into the psychological realm. Satoshi Kon also made Paranoia Agent, which is heralded as one of the best like psychological thriller animes of all time. And that gets referenced a lot as well. Anime culture, now that it's in popular culture, is only going to be referenced more in different scenes. And, when you recognize it, it's a really beautiful thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
I love when I think references just across the board, if they're done right, can be beautiful.
Yeah.
And I do like when you see where inspiration came from.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Oh, dude, it's great. But so like, going off of that and going into that realm of popular culture, even Michael B. Jordan in the Creed movies has said that he was referencing action anime to try and mimic some of the shots and angles to create some of the tension that anime has that live action doesn't. And, you and I've said before, one of my favorite things to say when I'm watching a live action thing, I almost texted you this when I was watching Avatar. I almost texted, this should have been an anime.
Oh my God, of course. Hey, guess what? It kind of is.
Kind of, yeah. No, but I was watching, I was like, wow, this would be so
really
much
funny.
better if it was a high budget anime.
I would have face palmed in real life if I had seen that text. I would have just been like, "Are you kidding me, Kevin?"
The only reason I didn't send that was because I thought that you would be like, did Kevin have a stroke? Did he forget this was animated to begin with? But yeah, so like animes, it's really cemented its place. I think it's an amazing thing. I genuinely, going through those different spurts of like loving it as a kid, really loving Dragon Ball Z, talking about it with my friends on the playground, and then having a break from it, and then having like some friends in college where we all kind of knew like, Code Geass and Death Note, and then having like some friends as an adult who were like, oh my God, here's my favorites. And like all sharing them and going through these different journeys. I think that's just been a really awesome thing that's made it something I've enjoyed in life. And like, even if I like grew out of, quote unquote, grew out of it tomorrow, or like maybe I hit a point where like, I'm like, oh yeah, I used to love that, like that's fine. I still have a bunch of amazing memories of having experiences with anime as an adult. One other thing I did want to point out, Kimi no Nawa which is the anime known as Your Name. Are you familiar with this one? That came
Mm.
out
I've
in.
never seen it, but I've heard
So
of it.
it came out in 2017. Yes, I want to say 2017 or 2018. But it actually beat out a lot of American movies in the box office internationally that year. And that was a
Yeah.
huge moment for anime as well, because it was the first time a non-studio Ghibli film did that well. And since then, we've only seen better and better as movies like Bungo Stray Dogs, Dead Apple, obviously Demon Slayer, the My Hero movie. Like, when they start hitting American cinemas, even though they're getting limited releases, they're still getting record turnouts in theaters because people are paying to watch them, including, me going to Demon Slayer last night at the theaters with a bunch of friends. It's a great time to watch anime, and you really don't get an opportunity over here to watch it in theaters that often, which makes it that much more special.
I saw all three, I think all three of the My Hero movies in theaters. I know I saw at least two of them.
Yep.
I saw the JJK Year Zero movie in theaters. I saw the last Demon Slayer one in theaters. I will not be going to see this one because I'm behind on Demon Slayer, which I'm upset about.
It's not a movie, though. It's just the last episode of last season and the first episode of the new season.
Yeah.
It's not an actual movie. It's just like a cinematic event.
I need to finish last season. I haven't finished the Sword Village arc yet. But anyways.
It's good.
And we saw another anime movie, and we've seen a couple. Like, we do try to go whenever we can, and it's something that we're like kind of interested in seeing in theaters, because I will say one of my favorite movie experiences, and you know what, maybe one of these days we should do an episode, and maybe I think it'd be really fun to do an episode of like favorite movie experiences in theaters, because I have a lot, but one of my,
mine's gonna be Dune
maybe top 5. Dune Part 2.
Dune 2.
Didn't you? Damn it. One of my favorite, probably top 5 experiences is it's My Hero, and it's the it's Heroes Rising.
Yeah, I was
and
gonna
it's
say the
when they
Heroes
go
Rising one, the second one.
when they go to the island, and small spoilers, but at the end of it, Bakugo and Deku end up sharing one for all.
They have
the
to
power.
use it together.
And I remember, for one, I saw this movie incredibly stoned. I took like 4 gummies. I was on the verge of greening out.
Yeah.
And I remember the final fight just being, and still, I think it is one of my favorite anime fight sequences, because it is that level of anime that we have talked about before, where it's like, it's so fucking out there. It's so over the top. It's so extreme. It's so hyper realistic that, for one, you should never attempt it in live action because you'll never reach it. But 2, it's just beautiful on every fucking level. It is just I'm getting goosebumps. It's beautiful. I love it. I'm gonna watch that movie today.
I'm gonna
watch that movie today.
One other thing I wanted to make sure that I covered because really the whole point of this is that, like, anime, I think a lot of people, because it's become so popular in the past 10 years and gets referenced more. I mean, you even have like Megan Thee Stallion saying like, I love anime. Like, I'll watch anime with anybody. Like that was a cool interview where she was like, yeah, I love anime. Like, that was cool because it made people who maybe had like shoved it off to the side go, oh, well, if she likes it, maybe I'll check it out. Right. Even like, you have like Doja Cat, Drake's referenced it. A lot of the sports stars seem to reference shonen animes, and then like some of the more creative artists are getting like deeper into anime culture and getting into like Psycho-Pass and stuff like that. And then you have our visual directors and directors who are referencing anime. I love Psycho-Pass too. But yeah, so like not only is there that, but there also has been a huge development in music based off anime over the past 30 years. Now, like the introduction, obviously K-pop and J-pop have become more popular in the US, but a lot of people's introduction to K-pop and J-pop came through anime theme songs.
I agree.
It came through the songs that were playing, like even like going back to like 90s style J-pop, like Sailor Moon is a very J-pop, like 90s J-pop song, like the intro. And then like, you have like, I don't want to say Bleach, but like definitely like bangers from like Code Geass, from Space Dandy, from Death Note. Like everybody knows the fucking
yeah.
Death Note theme when it comes on. Tokyo Ghoul's theme, right? Like
Tokyo Ghoul's a good one.
Like everybody fucking like anybody, if you've ever watched it, you hear those first few notes from TK and you're like, oh yeah, shit. But not only that, anime had a huge influence on subculture, and there's specifically 2 shows that I want to reference that had an influence on hip hop subculture, and that's Samurai Champloo, right? So Samurai Champloo for sure, because Nujabes, who produced a lot of like the like hip hop influenced songs on the Samurai Champloo soundtrack. But not only that, and one that often falls off to the wayside, and this is a proper anime, even though it was conceptualized and created in the West, is Afro Samurai.
Yeah.
Absolute banger of a show, Afro Samurai. And not only that, produced by RZA, right? So RZA of the Wu-Tang Clan gets together. They've got Samuel L. Jackson involved in the project. It was such a huge thing at the time for Afro Samurai to even be created. And I feel like it fell to the wayside only because, one, there's not a lot of episodes, right? It tells a very short, succinct story that you can love and enjoy and like get to the end of and be like, wow, that was nice, right?
And those are nice stories.
Yeah, they
honestly.
are. They're great. But like the hip hop in that show, I think is where you started seeing anime blend into hip hop more. And obviously Wu-Tang Clan is very Wu-Tang Clan, right? They're very influenced by the East, right? Always have been. Like they would always say straight out the slums of Shaolin, like so like of course that was how that came to be, but the blending of hip hop and anime as 2 different subcultures I think is an amazing thing. And going back to our Everything's a Remix episode, of course they would blend together because they are 2 different subcultures that are constantly remixing themselves, Yeah.
No, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking when you mentioned, obviously the music intros, and I was trying to think, unfortunately I can't remember a lot of like the older anime intros, but I think one of my favorite anime outro songs is from JJK, the first half of the first season, and it's the Lost in Paradise song.
Yep.
And I know it's like it is a K-pop band, and obviously they're singing in English, but for one, that song is great. And for 2, if you try to look it up on Spotify or Apple Music, anything except for YouTube Music, you're not going to find it. And the reason why is because the drummer might have been a P3DO. So that's
great.
fun. He was either that or he sexually assaulted somebody.
That sucks.
Yeah,
and it turns out
Song's
if you get
good.
canceled in Japan, you get canceled hard.
Yeah.
Or no, Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good song though.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Anime also contributed to one other thing that I think is worth noting. It contributed to something that's become very popular recently, especially with Squid Game, and that's the Battle Royale style show. That has existed for forever. When Squid Game became popular, I was like, oh, yeah, it's Battle Royale. Okay, cool. And people are like, what do you mean? Oh, yeah, it's Battle Royale. It's like, this has been around for like forever, guys.
Yeah, should have been an anime.
Yeah,
Squid Game should have been an anime.
I mean, it could have easily. It would have been even more dramatic, but it would have reached less people. I think Squid Game really does draw a lot from anime. And not only that, around the same time, Netflix dropped, started streaming Alice in Borderland, which is a manga. Like, was already a manga. And then got turned into this Battle Royale show. So
maybe I should get Netflix back to watch that.
If you want.
I've heard it's pretty good.
It's
the live action one.
It's very good, and it's very manga. It's very anime. So like, if you're looking for something that's more anime than Squid Game, definitely Alice in Borderland's good. But
I've never seen Squid Game. It didn't interest me.
It's good.
I gotta be honest. It's just not my type of show. I get why people liked it, but for me, I struggle, and this is across the board. And this is, I mean, it's funny that I say Squid Game isn't the type of show for me, but like when there's a lot of characters to get attached to, but you know that by the time the show is over, there can only be like a couple of them left because of plot. It's kind of hard for me because I usually get attached to the characters that definitely are gonna die. So yeah. But I mean, I respect Squid Game for what it did, and you know.
Oh, Squid Game's amazing.
All of that.
I think that's everything, man. What's your jam this week?
That was your deep dive. You did a deep dive on anime without even realizing it.
That wasn't the intent, but as I started putting together the history so that it just made more like really like I kind of wanted to paint a better picture because I feel like a lot of people look at it and they see it as like a modern phenomenon, but it's been going on for like over 100 years, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It is
and I
crazy.
would like to do, and I think,
and it's only good. It's only good things. Anime only has good stuff in the genre. If you're getting into it, don't shy away from anything. Anime is amazing. It's absolutely fabulous. Like there's nothing bad. Nope. There's nothing bad at all in the genre. Just watch every show you possibly can.
So I was gonna say, we definitely need to do. Now that we have the baseline for understanding anime, we definitely need to do another episode. And I know we mentioned about doing like a smaller one, but I think we need to allocate a full episode to just some of our favorites and why. Because
I mean, let's do it right now after we do this. Let's do 2 this week. Fine. That's fine. I've got my 5. I know my top 5. Do you know your top 5?
No, I'd want to actually like sit down and think and get some more info.
All right, I know my top 5 though.
Okay.
I'd
have to really think about it because I would call myself still new to the anime scene. I've only been watching anime. So my partner Nate got me into anime. So I mean that already puts it down in less than 7 years because we've been together 7 years next month. So I would say I've probably only been like hardcore watching anime for maybe 4 or 5 years, which is funny because even in those 4 or 5 years, my other really close friend, Mark, I got him more into anime through the anime that I started watching. So I'd really want to sit down and think, I've watched a lot in just 5 years. I've watched a lot of stuff from the 90s. I've watched stuff from the mid 2000s and now, but I'd really want to think because I've seen a lot of animes that like, I love Psycho Pass. I love JJK. I love Gundam. I love Death Note. Like, so it'd be really hard for me to pick my top 5 because I'm still new to it. You know?
I know my top 5 off the top of my head. Number 5 is the only one that ever kind of shifts, and I don't have like a top 10 or top 20. Like I don't have like a hard top 10 or top 20, and I don't mind if they shift. Like if you would have asked me 10 years ago what my favorite 5 anime are, the answer would be totally different than what it was today.
Yeah,
you know,
and I feel like
and it's the same
top
for
5
anything.
anything.
I think your favorite movies and books and shows, like it's okay if they change over time. Your tastes change.
Yeah. I think my top 3 consistently stay the same. Maybe my top 3 will shuffle within the top 3, but I agree. When it comes to top 5 of anything, place 4 and place 5, those could go any minute.
I mean, my number 1 Samurai Champloo, I think always, forever. Like until something else like really just blows me away and takes its place. That's it, you know? All right, what's your jam?
Okay. So I have been on a kick of obviously watching new movies in the theater, but because of that, I wanted to do movies we'll say 1998.
Okay.
I've been watching movies pre-1998. So last night, I watched the movie Airplane from 1980.
Oh,
now, I've seen this movie before.
I know that movie.
Obviously fantastic.
Yeah.
It's one of the best spoof movies out there.
It's so
there
funny.
Are some jokes.
It's like a really silly Leslie Nielsen spoof movie.
Yeah, and I will say, look, good movie, but there are some stuff. There is some stuff. In that movie
you mean
that
stuff
did
from
not
the
age well.
80s didn't age well?
I mean, it's still kind of
Airplane, Ghostbusters, Revenge of the Nerds didn't age well, Odie?
There is a scene in Airplane where two people are talking and they're talking in jive.
Yep.
And it's just it just feels in poor taste
in
the modern era.
Hot Shots Part 2 and all of the National Lampoon's movies, apart from some of the Family Vacation ones, didn't age well. Yeah, it's from
not
the
exactly.
80s.
But
look, if it's from
Airplane,
the 80s, just remember it's from the 80s, and like you could get away with some shit a little more back then. I would say so. Like there's definitely, like I've said before, there's like a swaying of the cultural pendulum, and we'll eventually like find a little bit of equilibrium somewhere again, and then we'll go too far one way or another. But yeah.
But Airplane's good. I like the bits. My two favorite bits from that one are when the soldier is on the airplane, he's waving to his girlfriend. Yep. It's supposed to be like he's on a train saying goodbye. That one's really good. I like when the stewardess starts singing a song and she keeps knocking out the child's IV and like the kid is almost dying.
So good.
Props to that kid actress for just like doing the weirdest faces ever.
Yeah.
Like she literally does like the pucker face. She's like, and it's just there's just a when he's just sweating uncontrollably for landing.
Yep.
So many good bits, and it's just a fun brisk.
It's absurd.
Hour and a half. It's yeah.
It's very
good.
silly humor. Yeah.
It's again, there are some points that I'm like that did not age well.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are movies from like 2012 that didn't age well. Let's be honest.
Leslie Nielsen had an amazing movie that came out
He has a great
in
career.
like the late 90s called Spy Hard. Did you ever see that?
Oh my god!
Have you seen
yes.
that?
It's like his follow up to Naked Gun,
It's
but
so
like a little
good.
different.
And Weird Al sings the title track. Oh my god, so fucking perfect.
Love it.
I love that movie.
Love it.
That's cool.
What's your jam?
My jam this week is obviously the Demon Slayer movie that I saw in theaters. But I mean, ultimately, I'm gonna throw down Natalie Carr's my jam this week. I can't believe that girl. She's crushing it.
She's gonna be in a festival
shout
with
out.
Noah Kahn, Post Malone,
Yeah.
Mount Joy, and I was like, dude, I want to almost fly out there and see her.
I'm so happy she got on that. I voted for her to be on that festival.
That's dope.
Yeah, she totally deserves
Super
it.
happy
She's
for
really
her.
making strides this year. So big shout out to Natalie Carr. Everybody should listen to her
Wonderful.
all the time. She's
Wonderful
always been
friend of
good.
the show.
Yep, a friend of the show.
we get to say that.
Yeah, right. No.
Oh, you know
she's
what?
amazing.
Real quick. Sorry. Speaking of friend of the show, I meant to also put this in my jam.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Aaron Radcliffe from Nomads Nation,
Okay.
who the episode with him and I should be coming out. When's that coming out? Soon?
I don't know.
Next week? I don't know.
You tell me.
You're the one that upload and edit everything.
I got it,
Anyways, Aaron just finished after 617 days. He has designed and is producing his own backpack,
Hooray!
which we talk about in the podcast episode. But just wanted to put that out there. Like,
Hell yeah.
super happy for him. It's super fucking cool.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, sorry. Didn't mean to
I
interrupt
love
your
that.
jam, but
Let's roll the anime outro. No. Hold on. The anime outro is still going. It's very sad. You gotta cry. No, you gotta cry. This is remember because the K-pop intro is all happy and stuff, but now it's all we're in our feels because the episode's over.
oh my god, I'm so sad.
Oh my god. All right, roll the real outro. I love how I'm saying roll, but it's me. I'm queuing up myself to do it in post. Yeah. Like.
Because you do the editing.
Kevin, hit it! Future Kev, this is for you.